Good afternoon, everyone. And in our today's lecture, we are going to see how oil is being processed, what are the steps involved in the oil processing, the one that you get for eating in our day-to-day life is a processed oil which has been refined, which has been filtered, and we don't prefer to eat the freshly expressed oil. But if you know, or these days, the cold pressed oils are becoming more popular and more famous. In olden days, in particularly our rural area, the farmers, when they used to have these oil seeds, what they used to do is, they used to have a ghani, ghanis, and they used to use cattle or animals to take out the oil, and it was just pressing between two rolls, and oil was pressed. So so that was like ghani oil, or unrefined oil. But then when you have this urbanization and industrialization and modernization, to improve the shelf stability, we went, we modified this oil through the processing by removing so many constituents and ingredients, so that its shelf stability could be improved. So if you look at the seed of any plant, so generally, usually, at least in India, the oil is taken out from either, we know that there are various types of oil. On the first day, we saw, you have peanut oil, you have sesame oil, and India being largest producer of peanut, we have a peanut oil. Then we have sunflower seeds, from which sunflower oil can be taken out. Then we have safflower seeds, we call it as a curdy, okay, in Marathi, or mustard seeds. Then we have coconut, can also be used. Then we have this flaxseed, okay. So sesame, sunflower, safflower, and there are other also like soya bean, canola, corn. So there are so many types of sources which could be extracted for the oil. Generally, like if you look at the soya bean, there is around 30 to 40. Even in peanut, there is 30 to 40% fat. So when you have the seed, overall, if you see any seed, there is a fat. Okay, so depending upon the source, for example, sesame, peanut, or soybean will have around 30 to 40% fat, depending on the variety. And there are many other factors. If you look, coconut will have even higher percentage of fat. Flaxseed would have around 20 to 30% of fat. But in the seed, there is not only just fat, there are other constituents also present, like you have protein, you have carbohydrate, then you have fibers, then you have minerals, you have other micronutrients, you have other bioactive constituent like enzyme, sorry, you have enzyme, or you have antioxidant, or you have like lipase or lipoxygenase. Such a complex system, okay. And then fat is not, when you express it out, it is going to carry along with it certain amount of these ingredients. And when you have these certain amount of ingredients, it is going to affect on the shelf life or shelf stability, okay. And therefore, as a scientist or technologist, we invented this processing technology of oil, so that the oil stability could be improved. But at the same time, we realized that there are micronutrients such as vitamins and they are getting lost during this processing. So we decided to add, when you have an oil, we add externally vitamin. Then we thought that, oh, these antioxidants are also getting lost during this processing. Let's add some antioxidant. Then we add antioxidant. And now recently you must have seen, entirely people would like to go for cold pressed oil, and they are more expensive than the refined oil. A safflower oil which is refined and which you will get around 130 rupees a liter. The same cold pressed or unprocessed oil or just extracted using ghani is current price is 450 rupees per liter. Okay, so right now people are preferring for it based on its quality, and also like it has stability also. But there are some other disadvantages, like the shelf stability is a problem. Okay, so basically whenever you look at the oil processing, it has 5 processes: refining, number 2 settling and degumming, number 3 neutralization, number 4 bleaching, and number 5 deodorization. Okay, so what is refining? As the name indicates, refining, we are refining. See, whenever you say refining, means you are doing cleaning, you are removing the undesirable things from anything, is called as a refining. Okay, so basically when you express the oil or extract the oil from the seeds, you have other substances just now I mentioned. So that also come along, because those substances are, some of them are polar, some of them are non-polar, and we know that fat, also has a emulsifier. Like some of the seed also have emulsifier, like soybean has a lecithin. Uh, so there are polar compound as well as non-polar compound, and every seed also has certain moisture content. Almost 10 to 12% moisture is always there in any of the seeds. Okay, so they contain all these fat. When you express, these constituents are also going to come along with the extracted oil, so that may impart undesirable flavor, color, or keeping quality. Color means, for example, you have peanut. So when you take the peanut and extract the oil from it, and the oil, that also peanut has lot of carotenoids or pigments, like the skin of the peanut is pink in color, is because of anthocyanin and certain coloring pigments, pink pigments. Okay, so when you express, and pigments like chlorophyll, carotenoids, and these anthocyanin, they are fat soluble. So when you try to extract the fat, these pigments also come, and instead of the color of the oil will be either red or yellow or little bit of pinkish. So, but then this color is undesirable. People want a very whitish, clean, transparent oil. Also, you don't want to have that nutty flavor, because peanut will have a nutty odor or flavor. Or if you have mustard seed, mustard has a very strong pungent odor, a pungent flavor of that mustard. राई का तेल में तो बहुत strong mustard like pungency होता है. So you don't want that pungent odor. Or take an example of soybean, a very very beany odor. But then when you go today in the market, you buy either sunflower oil or peanut or mustard. They all look same in color. Of course, there will be a slight change in the color or difference in the color. But then even they are nowadays, in the bland odor or flavor. Like they don't give, a mustard oil may not give, a mustard ka flavor or odor. So these flavors, colors are undesirable. And what do you mean by keeping quality? When you have a seed, you also have natural enzymes present in the seed, and those enzymes are lipase. And where you are very much aware when the seed get a favorable condition. Okay, so when the seed is in intact condition, no problem, the fat is in the intermolecular cells or cells of these seeds. Okay, but the moment you express, the oil will come out. Okay, the oil will come out. Along with oil, the enzyme lipases and lipoxygenase will also come out. And when the oil is available, which is a substrate to this enzyme, the lipase will break down the lipids into free fatty acid, and then auto oxidation would start and the oil will get rancid, and therefore the keeping quality of this such type of oil is very poor. So in the process of refining, these substances such as free fatty acids, sometimes naturally also you must have seen that when your mom has purchased some peanuts and kept at home for a longer, even if it is not broken, if you break it, the peanut and powder it, the shelf life again goes down because the surface area increases, the oil gets exposed more, so the powder peanut has lesser shelf life compared to the whole peanut. But then whole peanut also you see that the rancid taste will come because of the rancidity or the oxidation of the free fatty acid. So naturally also, due to the storage and the temperature temperature abuse, these free fatty acids are formed. Phospholipids are naturally present in the seeds. Carbohydrates are naturally present. Proteins are naturally present. And if you have proteases enzyme in the seed, the proteases enzyme will act slowly. The reaction is very slowly because this seed is in active form. Okay, the seed also has a germ. So the moment even the enzyme, moment they get a favorable condition of temperature, they will start acting upon their substrate. The proteases will act on proteins and they produce amino acids or the smaller units, and their degradation products are produced. Then there is a water. 10 to 12% of moisture is always present in the seed. Then there are pigments like carotenoids, chlorophyll, and especially when you have special seeds like sunflower seeds or safflower seeds or flax seed, there are different types of pigments that are present, like which will contribute to the color, and also natural fat oxidation which will take place because of the auto oxidation process. So when you have this crude oil express, this crude oil is subjected to several commercial refining processes to remove these materials. So what are those processes? So settling and degumming. Settling and degumming. Now, name itself indicate you settle the oil and you remove the gum. You degum, like you remove the gums that are present. So settling involves heating the fat and allowing this fat to stand until the aqueous phase separates. There are generally these in the industry, I have visited several multinational also which are processing this oil, and there are number of videos also available in YouTube. So if you get time after this today's class, just put oil processing or oil refining as a keyword in YouTube. There you will see this operation. But generally this operation is closed because when you heat the oil at a high temperature, it becomes a very dangerous commodity, because a heated oil can burn, and it's like so generally also in these companies, when you go for visit, always there has to be certain distance to be kept, and it's not allowed. You cannot watch any observation, like any operation, very closely, because everything happens in the closed environment, all the container and everything. So basically here the oil is heated and allowed to stand until the aqueous phase separates. So that the fat has around 10% of the moisture which has come from the fat that you have extracted. The processed oil, obviously, you know, there are standard. It should be 99.99% of the fat should be there. The moisture permitted is very less, 0.1 to 0.2, like FSSI standard. So there should not be any moisture in the bottled oil or processed oil. This is the norm. But when you have this naturally expressed oil, it would have a water. So what is done in this phase? This oil is heated, and you know that oil has a higher melting point, and water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So water will be able to easily evaporate. Okay, water will be able to easily evaporate. So you heat the water, and then this is carried out to separate the aqueous phase. Okay, this results into the separation of water from the fat. Also, there are protein material. Okay, emulsifier or phospholipids are also naturally present in the seeds. The proteinaceous material, the phospholipids, and the carbohydrates, which has ability to dissolve in the water, like polar components. All polar components will be dissolved in this water, and they will be removed. You know, sometimes what do the companies do to make it more finer or refined? They also sometimes add externally water. When you add external water, what happens, you know, these compounds which are more polar, which dissolves in water, then they get dissolved, and then it becomes easy for you to remove. So in some cases, particularly with the oil containing substantial amount of phospholipid, like for example, in case of soybean oil, there is more phospholipid. But if you take an example of the other oils, for example, sesame or peanut, you will not find so much of phospholipid. Okay, so a preliminary treatment such as degumming is applied, wherein, you know, you add more water. As I mentioned before, you add more water and you agitate so that these components are mixed or dissolved, and this reaction is carried out at 50 degrees Celsius, and then you have phases, and then you try to separate the hydrated phospholipid by settling or centrifugation. Okay, two layers are formed, oil and these phase in which these phospholipids are dissolved could be separated. Then you have a phase called as a neutralization. Okay, so to remove the free fatty acid, as I mentioned before, from where this free fatty acid has come? In the seed, naturally, this is either due to the hydrolytic rancidity, like because there is already a moisture present in the seed. So either it is because of the hydrolytic rancidity, as I yesterday explained, in presence of water, triacyl glycerol molecules are converted into dye into mono, and mono into free fatty acid. Either that could be the reason, or the natural enzyme, maybe the enzymatic rancidity. Enzyme lipase is acting on the triacyl glycerol, and it is converted this tri into a mono, and mono into a free fatty acid. So to remove this naturally formed free fatty acid, caustic soda in an appropriate amount. Why I'm saying here an appropriate? Because some seeds might be very fresh, and then they might not have a very high amount of fatty acid that are generated. And generally, you know, the big good multinational company, you know, they tie up with the farmer. The moment the harvesting is done, they take those seeds and, you know, process it, and the storage is not recommended. So to remove this caustic soda in the appropriate amount is required. The strength of the caustic soda is depend upon you know, they do the analysis first, and then it is mixed with the heated fat, and this mixture is then allowed to stand until the aqueous phase settles down. This resulting aqueous solution is called as a soap stock. Okay, this is also is called as a food, and this food is then separated and used for making a soap. there is this residual soap stock is removed from the neutral oil by washing. So here, you remove once, then you again add water, then you again wash it. So you can remove it by adding water and removing again and again, and giving a washing with the hot water, followed by centrifugation or a settling reaction, so that the entire caustic soda needs to be removed. Otherwise then it will remain in the oil. Okay, although the free fatty acids is removed, this is the main objective of this neutralization treatment. This process also results into the significant reduction of phospholipid. See, in the previous case we have tried to remove. In this process we have removed phospholipids, but if there are more phospholipids and they have not yet completely removed, in this case also we are adding hot water and then we are centrifuging, and then in this process also this treatment helps in reduction of phospholipids. Now the next step is bleaching. Bleaching means you are trying to remove the color. Okay, you are decolorizing. So almost complete removal of coloring matter can be accomplished by heating the oil around 85 degrees Celsius and treating it with adsorbents. There are number of different adsorbents, but the most common one used is Fuller's earth or activated carbon. The one that I have seen the factories, they use this Fuller's earth, but because nowadays there is more advanced versions available, so the columns are available, so people put this oil through the columns, and then this column is packed with the activated carbons, and then when you pass this oil through this, you will get the the pigments attached to these beads or Fuller's earth. Okay, so here the precaution should be taken to avoid the oxidation during bleaching. Okay, bleaching agents like this activated carbon or at a high temperature also, there should not be any oxidation take place. So the care has to be, and then in the industries, of course, they do take a lot of care so that this oxidation is avoided. Other materials such as phospholipids, soaps, and some oxidation products are also absorbed or adsorbed along with the pigment. So in this process, suppose there are few remained, like these compounds remain because from the previous process. See, in the previous process also a lot of water, it is a multiple number of washings are given, but in case some residue remain, in this process these things also along with the pigments gets removed. So the bleaching earth is then removed by the filtration. There are very huge filtration beds, and then the oil is passed through those filtration beds, and then you get the filtered oil. Then the next step is deodorization. Odor means you are trying to remove the odor or flavor or nutty, beany odor. So volatile compounds with undesirable flavors are mostly either arising from the oxidation or you have a natural odor from the seeds. Okay, and these can be removed by simply steam distillation under reduced pressure. Here the pressure is reduced so that you operate it, okay, at a lower temperature, because otherwise if you use a higher temperature, your oil may get spoiled. So citric acid is generally used as a sequestrant and traces of pro-accident metal. Here one should be very, very careful to avoid the oxidation. It is believed that this treatment also results in thermal destruction of non-volatile off flavor. This is a disadvantage. Okay, it also causes a destruction of off flavor substances which are non-volatile, and that these resulting volatiles are distilled away. They say, as I mentioned in the first slide itself, that this process improves the oxidative stability, but this is not always the case, and very recently we have also, so one of my PhD students also worked on, we worked on all different types of oil, which are processed, like whichever oil is available in the market, and the one which is cold pressed, okay, just brought from the ghani and without any processing. And we checked a lot of parameters like the stability, rancidity, formation of free fatty acid, fry stability, and many other, and then sensory, many other tests were carried out, and we observed that the freshly expressed oil, because of the natural antioxidants, had a very good stability. Of course, it was more foaming because of the phospholipids and other emulsifiers that are present. There was a more foaming, but in terms of sensory, in terms of formation of free fatty acids, in terms of oxidation, the natural oils are really, really good. And that is what is this statement is, correct. We say that this refining process gives oxidative stability, but it's not always the case. Crude cottonseed oil, for example, has a very good resistance to oxidation, is because the cottonseed oil has a compound called as a gossypol or a tocopherols. Even sunflower oil has a vitamin E, or peanut oil also has a peanut. If you take an example of peanut, very, very high vitamin E, okay, good vitamin E, and vitamin E is a very good antioxidant. So when you process these, during this process, these compounds which are natural antioxidant are lost. But there can be a little doubt as to the remarkable quality benefit that occur from refining edible oil. But then you need to remove these compound. Gossypol is an anti-nutritional factor, and that is why if you see in mustard seed oil there is argemone, which is like not good for health, because it is a very pungent, so it is removed. And cottonseed oil, which may not be edible because of the presence of gossypol, but due to refining, it removes this. An impressive example is the upgrading of palm oil quality that has. If you see, the freshly expressed palm oil, it's completely red, red in color, but a filtered, refined palm oil that you get nowadays in the market is completely white, is removal of these compounds, okay. So this process gives an improvement in color, flavor, stability. Also sometimes, in the peanut, if you have stored peanut, the aflatoxin may grow, or gossypol in the cottonseed oil. This could be removed in this process effectively, okay. So this is a very simple process. I will also try to share one video on this oil processing, and you also try to see if you can find out. So if you have, before we move to hydrogenation, if you have any question, please do ask on refining. Very simple process. For your exam, only these 4 or 5 steps will be there, and that's all. Okay, so if you do not have any question, let's move ahead with the hydrogenation of fats. Okay, hydrogenation of the fat. Hydrogenation means you are adding hydrogen. So we know that hydrogenation means addition of hydrogen to double bond. Okay, hydrogen to double bond. We know that fatty acid has carbon-carbon double bond. Carbon-carbon double bond. When it is added with when you add hydrogen in presence of a catalyst, you need a catalyst here, okay. Usually there are a number of other catalysts that are being used, but the most common one is used is nickel, but there are palladium and there are other also, but I know palladium is also one catalyst, but most commonly used is this nickel. So in presence of this nickel, and when you add the hydrogen, what is going to happen when you add the hydrogen? this double bond gets converted into single bond. What do you mean by the double bond? Double bond means a polyunsaturated. A polyunsaturated fatty acid gets converted into no double bond. No double bond means single carbon carbon single bond means a polyunsaturated fatty acid is getting converted into a saturated fatty acid. Okay. Double bonds are converted into single. That means the liquid oil is converted into a solid form. Okay, a solid form. This process is a very important in the fats and oil industry. Why? Because you know that the moment you have in the oil or in the fat more double bond, it is going to decrease its shelf stability. So to improve the shelf life, the carbon-carbon double bonds are converted into carbon-carbon single bond by addition of hydrogen to an unsaturated fatty acid. So hydrogenation is a process in which a hydrogen is added to convert an unsaturated fatty acid into a saturated fatty acid is called as a hydrogenation, and there are two major objectives that are achieved through this process. The first is it converts a liquid. Carbon-carbon double bond means the oil is liquid. It is a liquid. More the number of carbon bond, more it is liquid. The moment you have converted this double bond into single bond, we have seen saturated and unsaturated fatty acid. So saturated fatty acid has no double bond. So we are converting a liquid oil into a solid oil or a solid fat. A liquid oil is converted into a solid fat, so that, or you can also convert it into a semi-solid or a plastic fat, or as per your own consistency one can go. Okay, so we will see slowly, such as you can convert them into shortening, or you can even convert them into a very hard margarine, or you have seen, you know, a frozen butter. If you keep a butter in the fridge, how it becomes like a stone, very hard. So what do? You convert a liquid oil into a solid fat, and this will result into either a semi-solid. It depends, like it's the process, you know, it's the process, and it depends on, you know, the hydrogen. Okay, the hydrogen. So, and the second important objective that achieves is oxidative stability. Oxidative stability, we have seen. Let me stop here and then let me share with you. So, all of us have seen that, so in the process of so it's the process of hydrogenation, addition. Okay, so what you are doing, you are converting this carbon-carbon double bond in presence of a catalyst nickel when you add hydrogen, and converting this carbon-carbon double bond into carbon-carbon single bond. So you are trying to convert an unsaturated fatty acid into a saturated fatty acid, and you are converting a solid, a liquid fat into a solid fat. So we know that, suppose suppose you have a fat, okay, a fat, okay. So the fat which has a double bond, we all know that the liquid nature of the fat is because of the presence of double bond, so in the process of hydrogenation, you add hydrogen here, so that this double bond is converted into single bond. And the moment you have this single bond, the liquid oil is getting converted into a solid fat. Okay, so let's take an example and see how one can, or how industrially it is converted. So basically, more carbon to carbon double bond in a fatty acid. See, there are number of factors that will affect on the hydrogenation process. So a hydrogenation process is the process. Let me share my slide. So you all know that in the hydrogenation process, you see on the slide, this is your a butter or a ghee. This is a ghee. This is a butter, or you can also call it as a margarine. Okay, and when you look at this oil which is liquid, maybe it is either a sunflower oil or any oil. So basically, when you look at the fats generally are called as a solid, whereas oil are liquid at room temperature. So when you look at the stearic acid which has no double bond, which is therefore a fat which is solid. Okay, whereas if you have this unsaturated fatty acid and oleic acid 18 carbon atom and 1 double bond, then you have a linoleic 18 carbon atom with the 2 double bond. See, there is 1 double bond, 2 double bond, here one double bond, 2 double bond, and this is linolenic acid 18 carbon atom, there are 3 double bonds. And we know that these double bonds definitely affect on the melting point. Okay, so melting point of fat is affected because of the presence of the double bond. Do you know why this melting point affects on the double bond affects on the melting point? On second or third lecture I mentioned, because of the presence of the double bond, the molecules are going away from each other. And also, is because of the forces between them. Okay, the forces between. And generally, you must have heard about intermolecular forces and intramolecular forces. Okay, naturally there are two types of forces present in the molecule: intermolecular forces and intramolecular forces. Intermolecular forces means between the molecules. See, this molecule will react, this molecule. So between this molecule and this molecule also, between these two molecules, there will be some forces of attraction. Okay, forces of attraction. You must have heard or studied London dispersion forces during your 12th standard, I'm sure. So these, because these London dispersion forces are present in everything, every molecule, everything that you see in and around. So what happens in these London dispersion forces? So basically, you have a molecule. So there is a force between the molecule, and also there is an intramolecular phase. Within the molecule there is a force. See, for example, today you students are attending my class. Okay, so there are many students, almost more than 10 students attending my class today. But then there is a force, here you people are attending. So whether that force of attendance or the why you are here attending is because of the intermolecular force or intramolecular phase. Obviously there is a strong willpower or strong determination between all of you, each one of you, and that is why you are attending the class. It is not because somebody else from your class is attending class, and that is why you are. Of course there is a that reason also, that there are 9 people are attending class, and why should I stay at home, or I should not attend. 9 are very vigilant and actively participating, and therefore I should also participate. Of course there is an intermolecular force also, but then more than that, you yourself decided that yes, I should attend the class, and that is why you are attending. So intramolecular force is obviously stronger, and similarly for any molecule there is a intramolecular force as well as the intermolecular force. So because of this London dispersion force, the forces between the molecule attract themselves. So the moment you have, and these London dispersion forces, are affected because of the attraction between, suppose there is one fat molecule, or one fatty acid. The force of attraction between these two molecules is affected due to the London dispersion forces. Okay, and the London dispersion forces are affected because of many reasons, like the surface area or the contact area between the two molecules. Suppose this molecule is here and this molecule is here. One molecule is very far and the other molecule is very far. So obviously the London dispersion forces will be poor if the molecule is farther. Okay, so because of this double bond, the molecules are farther, and that is why the forces between two of them are less. Whereas if you look at these, they are very compact, very closely, and because they are very near to each other, because they are very close to each other, the London dispersion forces are obviously higher. London dispersion forces are also affected because of the melting point, and obviously if you have a very firm product or firm fatty acid, or the molecule which are very compactly packed, and then therefore they will have a very high London dispersion force, and they will have a very good intermolecular forces, and then and because of that it will be very difficult for all of us to separate this each molecule, and that is why the melting point will go higher. Obviously the melting point of butter is higher than the melting point of this oil, which is liquid. The melting point in the butter also, if you have a margarine, the melting point of the margarine is going to be much higher than ghee. Ghee will have a lower melting point. So there are factors which affects on the melting point, we will see in the next slide. Okay, so basically, so yes, the melting point of the fat on oil. Why I am discussing the melting point? Because in the hydrogenation process, one has to play with the melting point of the fat. So one desire for semi-plastic fat or plastic fat, or a very hardened fat, okay, for example margarine, or you get the hydrogenated fat. So each one of them have a different melting point, and we play during hydrogenation with the melting point, and that is why I am trying to explain the melting point. Okay, so the melting point of a fat and oil depends on two factors. One is the molar mass of the molecule, like greater the molar mass results into the stronger London dispersion forces. I explained, in the London dispersion forces, suppose you have a molecule, okay, so a molecule will have protons and then electrons. So electron and proton. Okay, two protons and two electrons. If you take an example of helium, I think I have that slide in the next. Okay, so between the molecule and there will be a higher melting point. Greater molar mass results into a stronger London dispersion forces between the molecules and higher melting point. Also, in case of fats, that is applicable. We will see, like if you have more number of carbon atoms, the melting point will be higher. Suppose you have a 16 carbon chain, like 16 0. The melting point of this molecule will be lower than a 18.0. So number of carbon atoms, the chain is longer, the chain higher will be the melting point. Okay. Also, the surface area between the molecules, like saturated fatty acid molecule have a greater surface area between the chain, which is resulting into a stronger London dispersion forces. Okay. So a melting point of a solid is the temperature at which it changes from a solid to liquid phase. Solid to a liquid phase. The melting point is usually an index of force of attraction between the molecule. I gave you an example. For example, if you have a stearic acid, okay, stearic acid, it's like just a stearic acid. This is your stearic acid. A straight chain, no double bond, no molecules are separated. So this molecule is very, very compact, very compact. So obviously stearic acid is going to have a higher melting point than a linoleic or linolenic acid or an oleic acid. Okay. So during hydrogenation, what you are doing, you are taking an unsaturated fatty acid with the double bond and adding the hydrogen here and converting that unsaturated fatty acid into a saturated fatty acid. Okay. The greater the attractive forces between the molecule, the more easily they will associate to form the solid. Obviously, a lot of energy in the form of heat is required to convert the solid, and that is why stearic acid has a higher melting point than the linoleic acid. Or if you take an example of margarine, so we are converting, and then when you want to convert a liquid oil into a solid fat, a lot of things are decided based on the melting point, whether you want a plastic fat, whether you want a semi-solid fat, whether you have a hardened fat, is all based on the conversion of this. Okay, so if you look at this, what is happening? This reaction, hydrogen can be added. So in the earlier, just I mentioned, so you have a double bond. Okay, carbon carbon double bond. Okay, this carbon carbon double bond is here. So what you are doing, you are breaking here by adding the hydrogen atom here and converting. It's a very simple, okay, very simple phenomenon. Converting this double bond into single by adding these two hydrogen atom here. Now you will ask a question here to me. Just a minute. Okay, so in the hydrogenation process, hydrogen is added across the carbon-carbon double bond in an unsaturated fatty acid, and this reaction is called as a hydrogenation, and it decreases the level of unsaturated. You are converting this double bond into single, and that means you are converting the unsaturation. The reaction takes place at a high pressure, and a temperature. Okay, depending upon, there are multiple number of factors that affect on this process, but then it is conducted, or it is taken place at a high pressure and in presence of the catalyst nickel. Because this process is conducted at very high temperature and high pressure. Usually in the industry you are not allowed to enter the place where hydrogenation takes place, because there are chances that the there are a lot of hazard safety rules and hazards being followed. So the reaction takes place at a very high pressure in the presence of a nickel catalyst, but there are others also which could be used, like as I mentioned before, palladium, but then platinum or palladium are little expensive, and that is why nickel is usually used, and the resultant product of the reaction you see is saturated fatty acid and unsaturated, or maybe this is one double bond, but or this is a mono unsaturated fatty acid, a MUFA. But what if you have a poly? POLY, poly means many double bonds. A polyunsaturated fatty acid would also be converted into a saturated fatty acid, and the resultant product is a solid mass. So this advantage of this reaction is you get an increased melting point. You get an increased melting point. Also decrease in the rate of oxidation. Now look at this. Is this molecule highly unstable or prone to oxidation, or this molecule? Obviously, this molecule is very stable against the oxidation compared to this molecule. This molecule is highly unstable. Therefore, the advantage is it causes increase in the melting point, it decreases the rate of oxidation, and therefore increase in the shelf life, or increase in the shelf stability. Also, there is a fourth advantage of hydrogenation is, carrying a block of fat is easier than the carrying a liquid oil of, during transportation it becomes very easy to carry a solid fat, because then it will not spill off, and also obviously it will have a longer shelf life, so transporting from one place to another. Okay, so there is also, here, now you will ask me a question. Let me so suppose you have a oil, okay, an oil. Suppose you have an oleic acid, okay, oleic acid which has only one double bond, okay, one double bond. So one carbon-carbon double bond, and I am performing hydrogenation on this process. Okay. So if you have one carbon-carbon double bond, you will need one hydrogen. Okay, one hydrogen molecule, two hydrogen molecule. One will attach here, one will attach here. Two hydrogen molecule. If you have two double bond, you are going to need, two. So to break one double bond, you need one H2 molecule. Two double bond, you need two H2 molecule. So the more the number of double bond, more you are going to need hydrogen molecule. Okay. So now you will ask, carbon-carbon one double bond in presence of one H2 molecule gets converted into a saturated fatty acid, carbon-carbon. But what if you have a saturated fatty acid and a reaction with the hydrogen in presence of nickel carried out at 200 degrees Celsius, a hydrogenation is carried out? What is the result? Can anyone tell me? A saturated fat is further added with the hydrogen and performed with the hydrogenation reaction. What will happen? No one? Hello? So,
Yeah, ma'am.
are there any student attending the class, or there is no one in my class?
No, we are here, ma'am. We are here, ma'am.
Hello, hello. Are there
Yes,
anyone?
ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Well, can anyone say hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We are there, ma'am.
So, a carbon-carbon with a no double bond, a saturated fatty acid when added with the hydrogen at 200 degrees Celsius and under the nickel catalyst, a hydrogenation performed, there will be no reaction. No reaction. Please take it in mind. Fatty acid having only carbon-carbon double bond or a point of unsaturation only take part in the reaction called as a hydrogenation. A saturated fatty acid with no carbon-carbon double bond will not participate in the hydrogenation reaction. Only carbon-carbon double bond. So it doesn't matter if it is even one double bond, the fatty acid will take part in the hydrogenation process. Without this double bond, nothing will happen to a saturated fatty acid under hydrogenation reaction. No reaction will take place. It will remain as it is. Okay, remain as it is. So hydrogenation, we understood that carbon-carbon double bond when added with the hydrogen, it is getting converted into single bond. Okay, you get this CH. So an alkene, you know, this is an alkene. Alkene is converted into alkane. But in case of fatty acid, we don't use the word terminology alkene or alkane. We say unsaturated fatty acid is converted into saturated fatty acid, and unsaturated fatty acid is converted into and unsaturated fatty acid. So let us see an example of okay. So take an example of a fatty acid. So let us see, you have this OH. Okay. So, this is 19, and at the 10th position you have a double bond. Okay, and then again between 7th and 6th there is one double bond, and then we have this 5, 3 and 2. So you have this 18 as to 2, 18 carbon atom, and there are 2 double bond, and then what you do, you add hydrogen. Now how many hydrogen molecule you will need? You have 2 double bond, you have 2 double bond, therefore you add 2 hydrogen, and then the reaction is performed by addition of nickel catalyst and hydrogenation is performed. So every carbon-carbon double bond needs a molecule of hydrogen, If I have one double bond, like in case of oleic acid, I need one hydrogen. If I have 2 double bond, I need 2 hydrogen molecule. If I have 3, I will need more hydrogen. If I have 4, 4, and likewise. Okay, so double bond will turn into single bond. Okay, these double bond will turn into single bond. How? In the hydrogenation process, the double bond at the carbon atom 10 and 9 will go away, and the double bond at the position of 7 and 6 will go away. Okay, so what happens? The reaction is simple. You just have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay, so the double bond is gone, and you have simply there is no change in this double bond. Okay, don't get carried away, or don't get, this is a oxygen ka double bond. This has nothing to do with the hydrogenation. Only carbon carbon double bond will participate in the reaction, and you get a straight chain. Okay, you get a straight chain of carbon. So we no longer have double bond. We no longer have a double bond. Double bond turned into a single bond. So 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Okay, so if you see, there is no double bond here, no double bond, and this has turned into a single bond. Okay, double bond has turned into a single bond. Shape, or the bond that so there is also change in the shape. Okay, there is a kink, but now this molecule is more straight. There is no kink, or there is no bend. If you see the polyunsaturated fatty acid, one double bond, थोड़ा किंक है. अब थोड़ा दो डबल बॉन्ड रहेगा तो थोड़ा ज्यादा बेंड आएगा. 3 डबल बॉन्ड ज्यादा. 4 double bond, completely molecule will bend. I have already explained in my previous lecture. Okay, so a saturated fat is formed which has 18 carbon atom and 0 double bond, and this is 18 carbon atom, 2 double bond. The bend has gone. Okay, so number of carbon has not changed. So no change in ester bonds, no change in the carbon numbers, no change. Only the double bond is changed into single bond. Okay, just by reacting with the hydrogen, we can convert a polyunsaturated fatty acid into a saturated fatty acid. And if you only take this saturated fatty acid, okay, and add hydrogen and perform the hydrogenation in presence of nickel and 200 degrees Celsius on a high pressure, no reaction will take place. Please keep this in mind. This double bond has nothing to do with this carbon. Only carbon-carbon double bond will participate in the hydrogenation reaction. Now, take an example of another molecule, like for example oil. In case of oil, you have a complex. I gave you an example of linoleic acid with a 2 double bond, which is converted into suppose just now we saw linoleic acid which had 18 carbon with a 2 double bond is converted into now 18 carbon atom with a 0 double bond, which is a stearic acid. Okay, which is a stearic acid. But then if you see the oil, for example corn oil or a sesame oil or a sunflower oil, a system is more complex. What do you mean by complex? Means you will have linoleic acid or linolenic acid or combination of these together. Linolenic bhi rahega, oleic bhi rahega, linoleic bhi rahega. So it will have a combination of these fatty acid together. Suppose you have an oil. Okay, in that oil you have the fatty acid. Okay, C double bond O, C double bond O, C double bond O. Okay, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there are suppose. Okay, then I have another molecule of suppose I'm just giving you an example randomly. so that 1 2 3 4, suppose I have 4 double bond. Okay, this chain may continue, or again the double bond may get increased, so depends. Okay, so suppose you have another, here the molecule or the oil which has these fatty acid having different double bond. So how many number of double bonds are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. There are 9 double bonds. Okay, there are 9 double bonds. So there are 9 carbon carbon double bonds. So how much H2 you need? You need 9 H2. Okay, so 9, so you add 9 H2 molecule, you use nickel catalyst, and you perform complete hydrogenation. What do? You perform a complete hydrogenation. What is the reaction? In the reaction just now we saw, ester bond does not change. Ester bond not going to change, number of carbon atom not going to change. What is going to change? Only the double bonds are going to change. So what is going to happen? Okay, so what we are going to get? We are going to get a simple, see, everything will remain same, everything will remain. Number of double bond does not, only the number of like this double bond will get converted into single bonds. A polyunsaturated triacyl glycerol is going to get converted into, okay, so I'm not trying to just, okay, so what is happening in the complete hydrogenation? All the double bond have converted into the single bond. So that means a polyunsaturated triacyl glycerol is converted into a saturated fat. A saturated fat. This molecule has a lower melting point, whereas the resultant molecule after the hydrogenation has a higher melting point. Okay, it is very firm, it is very solid. It is like if you freeze it, it will become like a stone, very hard. If you freeze the butter, what happens? It's like stone, very difficult to spread. Ultimately you have to keep it outside and then allow it to get like melted, and then like it has become into a very solid like a margarine. What you have done, a polyunsaturated triacyl glycerol when performed with the complete hydrogenation has become a very firm, solid, hard, and it is very difficult. So now the industry has decided, oh, this is a very solid mass that I have got, and I'm not able to use it very effectively. So what should the industrialists do? What should we do? Any answer? If we want to, if we do not want it to have a very high melting point and a very firm texture, if we modify the texture, what will you do? Yes, Atharva. If you are not going to speak, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not here only. It is not my responsibility to teach. It is ultimately your responsibility also. And if you are just logging in and going away, I'm not going to continue the lecture. Are you there? Can you tell? Somebody can tell. Yes, if we perform the complete hydrogenation of a polyunsaturated triacyl glycerol molecule, a very firm, solid, very high melting point substance is obtained, like a margarine or a hard butter. So if you want to modify, if you do not want to have a very solid fat, what will you do? How will you do that? Hello? I'm not able to hear anyone. Why?
Ma'am,
Ma'am.
If you are not going to speak, I am not also going to speak. So
Excuse me, ma'am.
until and unless you speak and show that yes, you are here.
Hello.
Hello. Ma'am, am I audible? Hello.
Yes.
Ma'am. Ma'am, I'm not sure if my answer is right or no. But as to decrease the freezing point of ice, we use salt. So can salt work in this case also? I'm not sure, but
Yes, Drushti, are you there?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am.
Why I am
Hello.
not able to hear you?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
hello.
Ma'am, message कर दो.
Yes, Gunjan, Komal. Can you unmute and talk? Or you are not able to mute, unmute?
Ma'am.
Ma'am, can you hear us?
Anyway, that it shows that you are least concerned, you are least bothered. I will also not bother. Forget about it. I will just go ahead. So in case of complete hydrogenation, basically what happens if you see that there are 9 hydrogen bonds, you want to perform the complete hydrogenation, and you perform the complete hydrogenation, and you find that the resultant product is very hard. I showed you in the previous example that all of these bonds were converted into a single bond, and these molecule was straightened, but then it was very solid, and it had a very high melting point. So what we need to modify is, instead of using 9 hydrogen, you just use 3 hydrogen molecule, so that you don't want all the molecules to get converted, and you just convert these only double bonds into single bond. So if you look, so resultantly when you perform only, and this process is called as a partial hydrogenation. Partial hydrogenation. So you don't go for the complete hydrogenation. So but then when you perform the partial hydrogenation, you see some bonds are not converted into a single bond, and double bond are still there. And here in the third molecule, which is here, or the third chain, these bonds, unsaturated bonds, have been converted into saturated. So you have still unsaturation. That means you are able to lower the melting point. So because of this chain, there will be like saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fatty acid, and this helps in resultantly you will get a semi-solid mass or semi-solid fat. Okay, semi-solid fat. But then when you perform a partial hydrogenation, what happens? You get only a certain amount of saturation, and there is still unsaturated. But during this partial hydrogenation process, there is a disadvantage, and that disadvantage is some of the the bonds that you see have converted into trans. See, this is a trans. Trans means like you have, this is cis, okay, H is on the same side. But trans means you get one H here and one H here, okay, instead of here H. So there are trans, here is one trans, here is one trans. So during partial hydrogenation, the trans fatty acids are formed, and it is very well known and very well established that the trans fatty acids are really bad for health, and they increases the level of bad cholesterol and decreases the level of good cholesterol. So therefore partial hydrogenation is not recommended. Instead, a complete hydrogenation is recommended. This is the melting point, which I already showed. London dispersion forces, like suppose if you take a helium, this I have already explained, like how a helium molecule would have 2 protons and 2 electrons, and these London, because of the London there will be an attraction between molecules, intramolecular and intermolecular, and then there will be attraction. And interestingly, these electrons gets attracted to the proton of another molecule, and this is called as a intermolecular forces. Okay, intermolecular forces. And also there is a repulsion, and because of these intermolecular forces, one molecule looks so different than the other. For example, the fatty acid like N-pentane, is same number of carbon atoms are same, but the only difference is they are arranged in a different way due to this London dispersion forces. One is spherical, like surface area, as I mentioned, and one is straight, very nicely dropped. So hydrogenation process also. But then trans fatty acids are formed. Trans fatty acids that are formed, which are straightened. The molecules are straight in the trans fatty acids also. Like.
Hello, ma'am.
So in the hydrogenation process, we just now saw the example that this chain was like completely straightened, like you got the saturated fatty acid, but then at the same time you saw that the trans bonds are created, or trans fatty acids are formed, and these trans fatty acid increases the melting point. They are solid, but at the same time they are more dangerous than the saturated fatty acid, which are natural, which are cis. Okay, so they have a very greater impact on causing the cardiovascular diseases. So if you look at these 16 one, like palmitoleic acid, one double bond. So if you add one hydrogen molecule, this bond will get converted, and you will get a straight molecule of fat. Okay, this is the say. So suppose you have an oleic acid 18 carbon atom with the 1 double bond, you will get a fatty acid, that is aladic acid, which is saturated fatty acid. But then at the same time you see you have H here and H here, and this is a trans. So trans fatty acids are formed during the partial hydrogenation process. Linoleic, this is the linolenic acid, 3 double bond, and then you convert this. Like if you have a linoleic acid like 2 double bond, then you add 1 hydrogen molecule, 1 double bond gets converted into oleic acid, like 1 double bond still remains, like you get the semi-plastic or semi-solid fat. Still you further add 1 more hydrogen molecule, the oleic acid gets converted into stearic acid, which is fully saturated. Okay, so saturated fatty acids, they fit very closely together in a very regular pattern because there is no bending, and therefore they have a solid fat, whereas unsaturated, they cannot packed very closely, and because they have a very weak London dispersion forces between each fatty molecule. Like a very good example, like if you take the twigs and branches of the tree, and then you put them, see, this is not very much, but only because of the bending you could not accommodate much. But then you see this wood which has a very straight wood stacked on each other, you can accommodate more. And similarly unsaturated fatty acids, that is why liquid. So hydrogenation is nothing but the hardening of the fat, and I have already mentioned the degree of hardening could be controlled by the addition of the hydrogen. The same example I gave, like if you have more double bond, more H2 is needed, and then you convert a unsaturated fat into a saturated fat. And if there is no double bond, a saturated fat with the addition of hydrogen, no reaction will take place. Okay, but then in the partial hydrogenation, what happens? A cis bonds are formed, and which is not recommended. This molecule just now I draw. So cis and trans. So oil is basically mixed with the catalyst, and nickel is just a preferred one, and the temperature varies depending upon the type of oil, which oil, whether it is refined, whether it is non-refined, and then it is exposed. And while stirring, the hydrogen is added at a pressure of up to 60 psig. The agitation is very necessary, so that this hydrogen should come into contact with this double bond, okay, to add dissolving this hydrogen to achieve the uniform mixing of the catalyst with the oil, and to help and dissipation of the heat of the reaction. The starting oil must be refined. What will happen if the oil is not refined? Suppose here is a phospholipid. The uniform hydrogenation will not take place. It should be bleached. If you have a pigments, carotenoid pigments, or it should have more. It should not have any caustic soda remained, or soap stock or food stock remained. So it should be in a very low in soap. It should be dry without any moisture. The hydrogen gas must be dry and free of carbon dioxide or sulfur or ammonia. The catalyst must exhibit long-term activity. Suppose you are using nickel, only the reaction will get activated at the in the presence of nickel. So it should give a very good reactivity, very long-term reactivity. Okay, otherwise you will have to change again and again and replace again, and that it will not be a very cost-effective operation. Selectivity of hydrogenation and isomer formation can be easily removable by the filtration. And see, there are isomers are also formed during this hydrogenation reaction, and as I mentioned, a lot of trans fatty acids may also form during this. So it has to be under controlled condition. The course of hydrogenation reaction is usually monitored by determining the change in refractive index. So the moment you have more saturated fatty acid, the melting point of the oil will change, and simultaneously because of that the refractive index will also change, and the refractive index is directly related to the degree of saturation. Okay, so when the desired endpoint is reached, the hydrogenation of the oil is stopped, and then the oil is cooled, and then it is processed. Okay, so interesterification is like the same thing in which you play with the fat. I will try to continue this in the more detail in the next lecture, but just to give you an idea, interesterified fat, since the interesterification is generally affects the compound known as esters in the oil used, which produces a fat which is bit complicated, but it is a natural vegetable oil such as rapeseed, which is combined with the stearic acid, so that you have a different plasticity, you have a different fatty acid with a different melting point. Okay, so but it has a disadvantage because during this process lot of trans are produced, and this is not good because interesterified fat is believed to lower the level of good cholesterol, and it raises the bad cholesterol, and it also causes diabetes. It's not good for health, and it causes atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis means you have these arteries, and in these arteries this fat goes and deposits, and then the blood cannot flow very smoothly, and there is a pressure built up